How do you prioritize tasks? How do you make sure that you only do what you need to do? Those are the things that we'll be talking about in today's session here at the Corporate Mechanic. Hi, this is Joey and welcome to the Corporate Mechanic. Today we'll be talking about a very interesting topic which a lot of people, I know for sure, given the pandemic, you guys are probably really trying to answer this question, which is how do you prioritize your tasks? Right now that, we're all, well, at least a lot of us are working from home, we probably have experienced a lot of difficulties in trying to do all the work that we need to do, which we previously did at the office, but now we have to do at home together with all the other chores that we have. So it's really difficult. I know I've seen a lot of people trying to juggle things that they need to do at home versus things that they need to do supposedly in the office, but they're now doing at home. So it's now a lot more difficult than it was before. So how do you do that? How do you prioritize your task? Well, to answer that question, I would need you to look into all the tasks that you are working on and try to identify two things about each task. The first thing that I need you to look at is the level of urgency of each task. So it's either urgent or it's not urgent. When we say something is urgent, it is something that has a time element to it, meaning you have to do it as soon as possible. If it's urgent, it has to be done now. There is a due date to it. It has to be done as soon as possible, or some form or some indication that this needs to be done sooner rather than later. So that's the first dimension that you need to look at, the level of urgency. The other dimension that you need to look at is what we call importance. So whether something is important or not important. So you look at all the tasks that you have and look at which ones are important and which ones are not important. Those that are important, those that are considered important are those that have a big impact or effect. Okay? Not just to you, but to a larger group. Those that have an impact to a larger group are often more important. Okay? So I'd like to make this clear to you guys, because sometimes, a very common mistake is that when something is important, we often look at it based on the level of importance to ourselves. Something is important to me. But in the corporate world, when we talk about importance, it might be something might be important to you, but it might not be something that is important to your boss. Okay? So you have to look at that activity from a bigger picture. So for example, taking your lunch. Sometimes, well, to you it's important, but to your boss who's giving you something to do, that's not as important as the stuff that he needs you to get done. So you have to look at it, you have to look at the bigger picture, not just a task's relation to you, but to everybody. The bigger the impact, the bigger the effect, the more important it normally is. Alright? So those two things, you have to look at those two things, the urgency and the level of importance. And then from there, we can come up with 4 possibilities as to what you can do when it comes to the task that you have at hand. Okay? First are those tasks that are urgent and important. If it's urgent and it's important, these are the tasks that you have to do. Just do it. Okay? These are the tasks that you need to prioritize. Those that are urgent and important. Alright? Next, if it is urgent but it's not important, then you can delegate the work. So for example, you have a report that needs to be filed. Okay, the filing does not have any impact, but it has to be done. It's urgent because there's a deadline. Then you can delegate it. You can ask somebody to do the work for you because it's urgent. So it needs to get done. But it's not important to you. So you can pass it on to somebody else. If you're working at home right now, you need to clean the house. It's something that's urgent, you have to clean the house on a regular basis. You can't just not clean your house. But is it that important? Probably from your perspective, not as much. The impact of that is not as much. So the best way to move forward with that is to delegate that work. Get a house cleaner. Get somebody to clean your house for you while you do your daily work, your office work at home. Okay? What else? If the task is not urgent, but it is important, you can actually defer the task. Meaning you can probably do it at a later date. Okay? Since it is not urgent, but it is important. So for example, you have a project that is really, is really important, but it's not something that you have to do as soon as possible. There's a long lead time to it. Then you might want to defer that task, that activity to a later date. And then the last thing that you can do is to look at all the tasks that are not important and not urgent. These tasks, you drop. Okay? You drop it. Don't do it. Okay? Why? Because it's not urgent. It's not something that has a deadline that has to be done. And at the same time, it's something that is also not important. There's no impact to that activity. Let me give you a simple example. Browsing your phone, watching, binge watching, watch Netflix, watch Amazon Prime, HBO, everything, all these things. You watch TikTok. Okay? Yes, they entertain, but are they important? Are they urgent? So you have things to do, then please stop binge watching and start doing actual work. Okay? So you have to look at all the tasks and try to see which ones do you have to do, which ones do you have to delegate, which ones can you defer, and which ones you need to drop. Oftentimes what eats our time are the things that we could have otherwise not have done. It could have saved us a lot of time. Alright? Now, just to add to the 4Ds, let's focus on the things that you need to do. Okay, now I know that, out of all the tasks that I have to finish, let's just say I have 100 tasks on my plate. And then by doing the 4Ds, I was able to limit it to, let's just say, 50 tasks remaining. Okay, I've delegated the others, I've deferred the others, I've dropped the others. So what do you do now? Okay, one thing that I would like to point out is that when you have tasks, please do not multitask. Okay, that is something that I believe is not a productive way in doing things, in getting things done. Multitasking is a very wrong approach to being able to do a lot more work for a lot less time. Why? Well, it's for the simple reason that whenever we multitask, remember that when we multitask, the work gets stopped. We stop work and then we restart work. This constant stopping and restarting actually eats up time. Okay? It eats up time. Why? Because what you call task switching, that is non-productive time. When you stop work and you get to do some other work, there is time in between that is not productive. Okay? So let's just say I'm doing two things. I'm doing my work at the office and then I'm cooking dinner. If, for example, I try to do both at the same time, I am multitasking, what happens is that at a certain point, I stop my work. Let's just say I'm testing a piece of software. I stop it and then I continue on with what I'm cooking. The fact that I'm going to stop that, I have to train my brain to remember, what was it that I was doing? So there is time in between that is not productive at all. Okay, so I do my cooking. After that, I stop that and then again I need to spend time to get back to the other thing that I was doing. So it only eats up time. That's why multitasking is bad. Because the reality is you can only do one piece of activity at any given time. You have to actually stop and switch, and that eats up time. Okay, so never multitask. That's a bad idea. Whoever coined that idea that it saves time is probably haven't thought of it as much. Okay. The other thing that I would like to emphasize for the things that you need to do in order to be able to prioritize better is that the concept of FIFO, first in, first out. That is a good concept. Okay? Doing first in, first out, that's a good concept, although it doesn't always work. It can work if the number of tasks or activities that you do is not that big. Okay? Now, what big is, it's actually relative to you guys, depending really on the nature of the work that you're doing. But I just want to caution everybody in thinking that FIFO is the best way to move forward. Okay? First in, first out. It works. It's good enough, but it's not the best approach for certain situations. Once the tasks get, too big, doing a FIFO will not work or will not be as effective. What you need to do instead is to work in batches. Okay, so that's one other tip. When you have a lot of tasks with you, what you can do is to try to come up with logical batches. Meaning, a good example is, what work can I do for the day? So you batch the work into daily batches. Okay, today I have to do this, or you can batch it per morning, or you can batch it per half a day, per hour, whatever. It really depends on the stuff that you need to work on. But coming up with batches is a good idea. You get a batch of work that you need to do, and then it's not just really getting a batch by itself. And then you try to group together similar tasks. Okay? So grouping of tasks within that batch, which creates smaller batches. Okay? You group them according to the nature of the activity. If, for example, I need to do some housework, then I can group all my house cleaning activities, housework activities, where I need to clean the house, I need to fix an appliance or whatever, and so on and so forth. So I can group that together. That actually makes work faster. Okay? You group them together because you leverage on similar activities. You can also leverage on the location. You can group things together by location. If, for example, I need to go out, I need to buy my groceries, I can probably use I can probably spend the time while I'm already out. I might as well do some other errands. I probably would need to go to get a haircut, do other stuff. So I'm grouping together tasks that are similar. In that case, similar location. So I save up on time because these tasks come from or are to be done in the same location. What else? You can actually do tasks that are done in a specific sequence. You have to look at these tasks and say, okay, if I do this and I do this, so there is the sequence that needs to be done. So you have to look at that as well, which makes the most sense in coming up with activities or tasks that you need to accomplish. So don't just do a first in, first out. Okay? Get a batch, try to sort them together, try to group together similar tasks, try to group together tasks that can leverage on one another, try to look at tasks that have a specific sequence and be able to do it that way so you don't go back and forth every now and then. Okay? So essentially what I'm trying to say is before you execute on that batch, you plan for it. You spend some time planning on how you execute these set of activities. Don't think that it's a waste of time if you spend some effort in planning all your tasks. That's actually a very good way for you to save up on time later on. Alright? And so lastly, one last thing that I would like to recommend to you guys in order to be able to prioritize your task better is to come up with a to-do list. A very, very simple technique to manage your time better. Okay? So when you come up with these small batches, you just, list down all the things that you need to accomplish and be able to physically check them off every time you finish something. Actually, being able to say something is done has an impact on your mental state. Actually become happy. It actually releases endorphins. The fact that, oh, I've got this done, I've got this completed. Okay, I'm not really sure if it's endorphin or dopamine. It's one of those anyway. So it makes you feel better, and because you feel better, you are also now more productive as well. Okay, and that cycle of positivity just continues. So always keep a task list, always keep a to-do list. Okay, write in a piece of paper, use an app, whatever you're comfortable with. It doesn't have, I don't want to recommend, oh, use this app, use this tool, write it on this, write it on that. There are many ways of doing that. What's important is that you track it. Okay, you write it down, you track it, and you check it out. Okay, and you try to get that discipline in doing that to-do list. All right. So there, I do hope that I was able to give you some insight on how to prioritize your tasks. If you like what you've been watching, please do subscribe to this channel. Hit like, hit on the notification button, add a comment, if you have some questions that you'd like us to answer in the next episodes. So we're doing this because part of my advocacy is being able to train the next generation of leaders. And I know that if you're watching and you're at the end of this video, you're one of those guys who really want to become better. Okay? So thank you guys for watching. Stay safe and stay blessed.